Welcome back to Switch to Linux. Well, we're going to take a little walk through the desert here. I'm trying out a new stabilizing mount that we have so I can walk around and do videos and keep things nice and stable. Mostly this will be a tool for the travel channel. So if you're interested in seeing my travels, that's on YouTube at Tux Traveler, T-U-X Traveler. But today we want to talk about privacy. And on Friday is International Privacy Day. There will be some other announcements and things later on. Many other companies and organizations are going to be doing things for that. I will have a video out on Saturday because Friday is the weekly news roundup. We're not going to interfere with that. But what I want to talk about today is the fact that some people say that there is no privacy once you're on the internet. And this is not true. Now, I'm going to explain in detail why it's not true on Saturday, but today I want to talk to you about how bad the circumstances are. I want to focus in a little bit more on the case of the IRS requiring facial ID and things like that. We talked about this briefly on the weekly news roundup. Let's have a video about that. But using that as one of many examples, what we see is that we are all, of course, forced to pay taxes here in the United States. They say there's only two things that are certain, death and taxes. And if you're trying to do anything online with the IRS, you have to have this online account. And in order to use your online account with the IRS, you have to have an account and agree to the privacy terms and conditions on this for-profit company that is called ID.me. Now, ID.me, as I said, a private company that you are forced to accept that you agree with the terms of service of using them. You have to have this account compulsory to work with the IRS online. Well, that's problematic, isn't it? Now, what do they require? If you didn't catch the longer news video, maybe you're not interested in the news videos. Well, what's required is the first thing you have to do, you have to send them a digital copy of your photo ID. So I guess all of those people that, they can't get IDs, so therefore they can't vote, they'll have to figure out something else too. I mean, it's cognitive dissonance in the government levels. But all these people, after you send in your ID, you're also going to have to send them in a utility bill. Something that proves that you live where you say you're at. Okay? And so you got to do that. Of course, you got to give them a phone number so that they can either call you or text you. And once they do the calling and the texting, then you're going to have to get online with either a smartphone, a web camera, or some other service. And then you're going to have to give them basically a 360 view of who you are. This is going to line up with the ID. And then you can have your account and then you can log into the IRS. Now, this is the same company that was behind a lot of the problems when the coronavirus happened and a lot of people were forced to go onto unemployment because they were sent home from their jobs. A lot of the back-end struggles with getting the IDs of these people verified, it was the same company. So literally the IRS is bringing in a company that has already caused a lot of problems for other intergovernmental agencies in order to do this. But what makes it worse is that we have to give up so much of our private data to a third-party company that is not necessarily the government. Now, as I said at the start of this, or what it was, maybe it was one of my previous takes, can't remember, I took a few takes of this video. But some people say there is no privacy on the internet. That is simply not true. I will be addressing that on my video on Saturday. But suffice it to say that privacy is something that many of us don't realize how bad it is until there's nothing else to be done about it. This is why we need to put on our tinfoil hats, as it were, and take every step we can to safeguard our own privacy. Because what we can't be doing is we can't look down and say, oh, this company sold every bit of my ID to 6 other companies that all secured my ID on a leaky AWS account that wasn't secured because some third-party contractor failed to put in an appropriate password. That is literally what happens all the time. And by forcing us to do business with a company that is simply harvesting our data and then doing with it whatever they want to do with it, that raises serious concerns, serious privacy problems. And so the fact of the matter is, we have to take as many active steps as we can. Now, the IRS is not the only company we're going to see working with these types of things. You'll remember the tutoring platforms. We again talked about these online. So a lot of these students have these online courses. They're forced into doing their school online. And so the university, rather than, actually funding people working for the university or whatever else, they're like, well, we'll just bring in this third-party tutoring or proctoring contract. And so you're taking your exam on a creepy webcam with some creepy stalker Tubin-like dude who's hanging out in a tent. This literally happened. One of the students was deeply concerned about the person that he was forced to show his photo ID to, front and back, show all his room surroundings, and then this company is basically collecting all of this highly verified information, and then they had a data breach and leaked like millions of student records. Well, these are the problems that we have. This is why you want to have everything offline where you can possibly have it offline. Critically important. And the fact of the matter is, too many people don't even think twice about just giving up the data. It doesn't matter. Oh, this is neat. And what's even sadder, it's one thing when you're compelled by the IRS to do this nonsense that should be completely illegal. But it's another thing when you're just doing it because, oh, that sounds fun, or oh, that's so convenient. And so when we give up our privacy for the measure of convenience, this is a highly, highly problematic thing. You don't want to give up your privacy for convenience. That is a problematic thing. This is why I switched to Linux. Okay, I switched over to Linux because I wanted to maintain my privacy, and I don't care if it's a little bit more inconvenient. The fact of the matter is, Linux to me is not inconvenient, but there are certainly struggles and problems that you have. Now, of course, I had struggles and problems on, Windows as well. It's just different struggles and problems. But what I'd like to encourage you to do is to take some extra steps, think about some things this week leading up to this International Day of Privacy to see what can you do in order to make your life more private. How can you focus on things that will help you stay offline, stay off of the internet, and really keep yourself more safe from hackers, data breachers, and other things like that. Because this is so important to keep in mind, that privacy is not just dead just because we're on the internet. Privacy itself is something we have to actively fight for. If you give up the fight, you will not realize what you have lost until the fight is already over. So I'm going to encourage you today to do that. Also, if you guys like this type of walking video, more or less this was a test, and I didn't have the bandwidth right now to download a big old distro to test. But if you like this type of walking video, where we can talk about some Linux or privacy philosophy, I'm certainly open to it. I like walking. I like the scenery. But see what you guys like. Of course, you can follow along on my travel channel as well, where I got the stabilizing mount specifically for that channel. That's over at Tux Traveler. So thanks for coming along, guys. I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.